Sorry, my window doesn't hold.
Off the Brown Roswell Police Department. You know how fast you were just going, ma'am?
I'm so sorry, I'm late for work.
Sarah Webb admits she was speeding past a Roswell police cruiser.
Turn off the car and pass me the keys, please.
Officer Courtney Brown adds a charge of reckless driving because of the wet pavement, but asks fellow officers what she should do.
I mean, I don't have any speed detections at the same time, but what do you think? Or just tickets?
Atlanta answer or Roswell answer?
Hold on.
Officer Brown opens a coin flip app on her phone.
A head, R tail.
Okay.
This is tail, right?
Yeah. So really,
23.
Michael Jordan. Hi. So I got too fast for. Let me write this down.
Too fast for conditions.
Is it reckless?
Yeah, you can do reckless.
The driver has no idea she just lost a coin flip that will take her freedom.
Do me a favor, step out of the vehicle for me. Put the phone down.
Why am I
Put your
doing
phone down. Step out of the vehicle. Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
Sarah Webb was arrested and taken to jail on the flip of a coin.
Wow. These people really put my freedom in the hands of a coin flip. And that's disgusting.
So before we contacted you, you had no idea?
I had no idea. It's almost hard for me to believe still.
Sarah Webb.
The 11 Alive investigators were in Roswell Municipal Court Monday when all of Webb's charges were thrown out.
When the prosecutor dismissed the case, what did she say to you?
She said, I have watched the videos and I absolutely refuse to prosecute this case.
The driver didn't know about the coin flip until we told her, and police initially denied her request to see the body camera footage of the stop. Even though the traffic stop happened more than 2 months ago, the officers involved did not get put on administrative leave until we started asking questions. Brendan Keefe, NBC News, Atlanta. Our investigations of the Roswell Police Department have reverberated across the nation and around the globe. We broke the stories of a driver arrested for speeding on the flip of a coin, a police dog attacking a young suspect, and a 13-year-old boy who was intentionally left in the cold.
Getting cold yet? Because I've got heat in this car.
To extract a confession, all in Roswell. Tonight, there's more body camera footage with intentionally muted microphones and hidden documents, all showing a police department that treats its officers far different than the citizens they're sworn to protect.
A Roswell police officer pulls over a speeding car before discovering the driver is a buddy from the same department.
Hey, it's Ramuna.
Hey, man.
Hey, well, sorry, man.
What are you doing?
I just hit it for a second.
Officer Danny Ramuno was stopped for speeding and reckless driving.
I just hit it for a second. I'm sorry.
You know what kind of position you put me in?
No, I'm sorry.
Because I can tell you've been drinking, man.
I only had a drink. I'm sorry.
You only had a drink?
That's it.
Put your feet together.
I'm not doing any field sobriety.
That's fair.
So, that's what it is.
Okay, that's perfectly fair. You know, you're right to do that.
Officer Johnny Burnett calls for a supervisor.
He's been drinking.
But when the lieutenant shows up,
Street on line.
It's okay. You are.
Okay.
the officer cuts the mic on his body camera.
Where's the sound?
It's gone.
Why would they do that?
Because they're going to let him go.
Stay in the car.
Sarah Webb knows what it's like to be pulled over by Roswell police for speeding and reckless driving.
Turn off the car and pass me the keys, please.
2 officers arrested her on the flip of a coin.
A head, R tail.
Okay. Step out of the vehicle. Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
Before any of these stories broke, we showed her the video of Officer Ramuno, also stopped for speeding and reckless driving, but unlike Webb, let go with a verbal warning.
Put me in a bad spot.
It's not your fault. I'm not mad at you.
They never raised their voice at him. They were very kind, gave him a break, yet the second that I started talking to her, it was just hostility.
Take a look at the 2 stops side by side.
Stay in the car.
Sorry, my window doesn't hold.
Off to Brown Roswell Police Department. You know how fast you were just going, ma'am?
I'm so sorry, I'm late for work.
Hey, it's Ramuna.
Hey, man.
Hey, well, sorry, man.
Turn off the car and pass me the keys, please.
You know as well as I do, with no tests and the only evidence is some bloodshot, watery eyes, but you're crying about your sister. it wouldn't look good in court anyways. So there's no way that this would be useful at all. It wouldn't help you. It wouldn't keep anybody safe on the road. I mean, you're already hung. But you have got to talk to somebody, man.
Were you given any benefit of the doubt like that officer was?
No.
Did they ask you what was going on in your life?
No.
Two wrongs don't make a right. If we were wrong with Sarah Webb, like I say that we are, had we taken Daniel Ramuno to jail just because he was a Roswell police officer, that would have been wrong too.
Chief Rusty Grant has no problem with the way Roswell police handled the stop of one of their own.
I imagine you're doing a code 5. Now I have the case number.
Or the fact the case number was voided and replaced with a hard-to-find internal memo.
Why no police report? Why no incident report?
Typically, if we write a warning or something similar to that, we don't write an incident report.
Do you always write a memo? Do you always have the
No, we
officer
don't.
write a memo?
No, we don't. And actually,
so why write a memo that isn't easy to find in public records,
Well,
and not write an incident report that is easy to find in public records?
it wasn't to try to keep the information from anybody, because to be
this was withheld from me until I specifically asked for it.
Right. Well, the open records folks wasn't aware that existed, because they typically search a database, and that wasn't within the database.
And then was that in the intent of not having an incident report?
No, there was no attempt to cover this up or to hide this at all.
Why mute the body cameras then?
That's a good question.
You want this one paused too?
It doesn't matter. I don't even know how to pause this thing anymore.
The body cameras were muted. We asked for all video, and the records department only gave us the body cam. And for a month more, we tried to get the dash cam, and it was refused. They didn't even respond to us. It turns out the dash cam caught some of the missing audio.
That's right. Officer Burnett's wireless mic was still recording on the dash camera. We had to threaten a lawsuit to get this video, and now you can hear what they were hiding.
What do you want to do? He's already admitted he's been drinking. When he went to hand his girlfriend his wallet, he fell up against the car. And I told him, I was like, man, you put me in a bad spot. I agree.
Right before deciding to let Officer Ramuno go, they cut all the mics a second time, a feature the body camera vendor prohibits by default. Roswell police commanders had to actively choose to enable muting department-wide.
Officers are muting their dash cam, muting their body cam to talk about another officer and whether they're going to arrest him. There is only one reason to do that, and that's to avoid public scrutiny.
You know, we're doing it the way that we think we should do it. We're not trying to hide anything, but it's not a cover-up.
He's not going to jail or anything. I'm parking the car.
Police park Officer Ramuno's car for him because, according to the internal memo, the two passengers were also intoxicated.
Just keep in mind, yep, I have a camera on, so just don't say anything.
I'm not saying a word.
Roswell police did not want you to see this video. When we first requested it back in January, there was nothing to stop the department from releasing the dashcam recording of one of its police dogs attacking a teen suspect. But because one of the defendants was still in a pretrial diversion program, they could claim it was an open case and keep the video secret. Yet the police department had no reason to completely black out the officer's narrative of the canine attack. Every single line was redacted. This was not evidence in a criminal case, but a completed internal review that is always considered public record in Georgia. We requested the video again last April after the court case was completely closed, yet the department withheld it for another 7 weeks.
These videos and these stories that we're seeing in the media, the ones that have come out and may come out in the future, are not reflective of the fine men and women of the Roswell Police Department.
Chief Rusty Grant finally sat down with us for an interview this week, nearly 2 months after we asked to talk with him about the canine video. We made multiple requests directly to the chief, and he wrote, "I have not been ignoring you," before ignoring the 11 Alive investigators for the next month. So we sent the dog video to his bosses, Roswell's mayor and city administrator, and asked them for a response since the chief wouldn't talk about it. Neither agreed to an interview. We showed up at this city council meeting where we told Chief Grant we would be forced to chase him down the street to get answers about the canine incident.
Turn off the car and pass me the keys, please.
Once the coin flip arrest video that we broke last week went viral,
This actually happened 2 months ago.
the police chief immediately granted interviews to other media outlets before agreeing to answer the questions we first asked him May 25th.
I have nothing to hide.
Multiple sources within the police department say these cases were well known to both the rank and file and command staff long before they went viral.
Why am I doing this?
Now that the public knows, the department is taking action. A Roswell canine handler yells off 18 times. So why did his police dog refuse to release a teen suspect from his jaws?
The dog should have come off.
Professor Charles Meslow got his PhD studying police dog training.
Now he tries to bite the handler a second time, a third time.
And Dr. Meslow spent a decade working canine as a police officer.
At that point, the dog had made a decision. That's the problem when you let animals make decisions in tactical situations.
We showed him this dash cam video of a Roswell police dog biting a passenger who had bailed out of a stolen car and then gave up.
Handler literally should have hooked that dog up right there. Right there is where he made his mistake. And everything went downhill from this point forward.
This is the scene today. Police wouldn't give us the dash camera video until this year because technically the case was still open. But now we can look back 2 years through a window in time to what police say was the critical moment. First, the officer says, "Come here." Play.
Come here right now.
Fast forward. Then the officer says, "Get down on the ground." Play.
Get on the ground.
But the officer doesn't say, "Get down on the ground on your stomach with your hands out." So the teen instead decides to sit on this curb behind a bush. Then he puts his hands up. But police say putting his hands up and hands down behind the bush constituted furtive movements that triggered the dog to deploy not only on his own without a command from his handler, play, but also against the commands of his handler. Fast forward. What follows are 18 commands of off, yet the dog continues to attack. Then right here, the leash breaks and the dog goes back and grabs his hand and holds him now for another 8 seconds. 2 attacks, no commands to apprehend, ignoring all commands to stop. The dog nearly biting his own handler in the end.
You don't normally see the dog come off of a bite of a suspect and then go after the handler.
Is there something you would have done differently to get the dog to stop?
I'd have told him to stop. If he was properly trained, he'd have come off the bite.
He has received additional training, and I can't tell you it's because of that specific incident, but it was around that time.
Police Chief Rusty Grant's command staff cleared the officer and the dog, writing in their use of force review, no training issues observed. The canine responded as he should, and Canine Robbie did just as he had been trained by knowing when to apprehend a subject for unacceptable behavior.
This should have been picked up in the supervisor's review. For them to sign off on it and say the dog was performing as trained either indicates the supervisor does not know how a police dog is supposed to be trained or that they simply didn't care.
This dog was not taken out of service after this incident. This dog wasn't retrained because of this incident. Do you agree with that?
No. The dog should have been pulled from the street. The handler probably should have been pulled, and they should have gone through remedial training. The dog was not responding to commands.
I sent the dog, and he gave up, so I called the dog off. But in the haste of it, you know, things are amping up. Yeah, he's screaming like a little schoolgirl.
Do you, just as a human being, regret that this kid was mauled when all of his charges were dropped?
I think it is regrettable and it's troublesome, to be honest with you, and that's why the dog went under, additional training.
Now, right there, that dog has decided. What triggered the dog was literally the suspect. He raised his hands up again. It wasn't that he was starting to resist. He literally just moved his hands. The dog took it as a threat.
Dr. Meslow says the dog made all the decisions and ignored all commands. But the canine expert is more troubled that Roswell Police Department commanders saw no issues with the attack.
If a car malfunctioned or a gun malfunctioned, we would have fixed that right away. For whatever reason, they didn't seem to think that this was a problem. And I can't imagine any handler that works in this field that would think otherwise. If you can't control your dog, you're a liability. You're no longer an asset to your agency. You are a liability magnet. You're going to get sued, you're going to hurt people, and your agency is going to write checks.
A 13-year-old boy handcuffed and left to freeze in the back of a Roswell police cruiser on one of the coldest nights of the year. Roswell police are now under criminal investigation after we first revealed the department's top sergeant kept the boy cold to get him to talk. Now we've discovered that Roswell police commanders knew about this incident long before we demanded copies of the video, and they chose to take no action.
Roswell police pull over a golf cart in the middle of a January night.
How old are you?
I'm 13.
You're 13? Did you have ID on you or anything like that? What are you doing out here at 13 years old?
Oh, I think he totally stole it.
You can see ice clinging to the boy's arms. Weather records show it was 17 degrees, headed down to a low of 12.
Dang, it's cold.
Officers warm up inside their heated cruisers.
Oh, it's so cold.
It's cold out there.
It's chilly. Again, you're not under arrest. I'm just detaining you, okay?
And at first, Officer Cheryl Dickerson puts the boy in her heated patrol car.
I've got a 13-year-old detained right now.
I'm going to jail for nothing.
I didn't say you were going to jail. I said you were detained, okay? We're trying to figure out...
When you get handcuffed, you always going to jail.
That's not true.
He's not going to tell you the truth. He hasn't told you the truth since he met you.
Yeah, so I don't know, but he's 13 from what I can tell. I mean,
He's 24.
you think it's
Yeah, I think there's some issues there.
I'm going to take... Listen to me. I'm not asking you what you go by. I'm asking you what your name is. I've about lost my patience.
I mean, he's lying to you.
Yeah, I'm going to call Sergeant Elsie.
Sergeant Daniel Elsie is called to the scene. The sergeant immediately gets in the patrol car with the boy, turns off the heat, puts all the windows down, then sits in a cruiser with heat.
Yeah, he ain't gonna say anything if it's warm.
Oh.
So he can sit over there and be cold.
Okay.
That's why I rolled your windows down. Let him get a little chilly.
Officers laugh in their warm patrol car while the 13-year-old boy is left to freeze.
Getting cold yet, Ann? You can take it. Cool. So can I, because I've got heat in this car.
He's freezing him out.
Yeah, I can see your breath. It's pretty cold back there. Keep telling me.
Is it cold in the car, you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's freezing in there. Well, he's got all the windows rolled down and the heat off.
You gotta hang tight right here, since you can't remember Mom's phone number. And if I can make contact with Mom, then we'll get some heat going, all right?
Then Officer Dickerson cuts the mic on her body camera.
I'm going to mute this. I'm going to mute this.
Sergeant Greg Freisen shows up and takes Sergeant Elsie for a walk. Records show he put a stop to the abuse.
Come on out. Put your head.
Did we find out where Mom was?
Yep.
This video was viewed more than a dozen times by Sergeant Elsie's supervisor. In the latest annual review, the lieutenant wrote, Sergeant Elsie did make a poor decision regarding the safety of a suspect, a poor decision that was not in line with department values. But supervisors also wrote, Sergeant Elsie sets a very positive example and gave him higher scores than the year before, much higher than Sergeant Freisen, who was credited with confronting him. Sergeant Elsie wasn't punished. He was rewarded with Supervisor of the Year. That's Police Chief Rusty Grant last April, who also signed off on the annual reviews in May. No internal affairs investigation of the January incident was launched until July, days after we demanded copies of this video under the Open Records Act.
Chief Grant, when did you first learn about the intentional freezing of a 13-year-old boy?
Britton, I've told you that the investigations, that instance being investigated, and I'll get back with you when the investigation is complete.
With respect, sir, there was no investigation for 7 months. until we asked for the video. Is that correct?
I'm not, there was an investigation, but beyond that, I'm not going to comment on that.
The Supervisor of the Year is now on paid administrative leave, but his picture remains on the wall of police headquarters right under the chief's.
Can't you be honest with the people of Roswell and say when you learned? Was it before you handed Sergeant Elsie?
I'm not being dishonest or trying to avoid your questions. This is an active investigation, and that's.
Are you under investigation? If you're not under investigation,
no, I'm not under
when you learned of this, it should be immaterial.
The incident's under investigation.
The day after we demanded internal memos from the police department, the chief personally asked the GBI to criminally investigate his own officers. Roswell City Attorney has used that criminal investigation to keep secret the memos that would prove what the police chief knew and when he knew it.
You handed Sergeant Elsie the Supervisor of the Year in April. Did you know before that? It's a simple yes or no question.
I wasn't aware of all of the circumstances surrounding the incident.
But you knew of the incident?
I was aware of an incident, but with all the specifics of the incident, I was not aware of all of the specific information in the incident.
The police chief knew when this photo was taken of the incident that is now the subject of a criminal investigation by the Fulton County DA.
I feel violated.
No, we don't care.
We feel violated and sense law to us.
Sergeant Daniel Elsie is coming back to the Roswell Police Department, but he will no longer be a sergeant. The police chief has stripped Elsie of his rank.
The Roswell police chief abruptly resigns, giving his 2 weeks' notice amid a year-long 11 Alive investigation.
New tonight, Roswell's police chief abruptly resigns amid ongoing 11 Alive investigation.
3 officers have been fired. The police department's Supervisor of the Year was demoted. The deputy chief suddenly retired. And this morning, the chief of police resigned.
Come on, can you stand up for me?
A handcuffed suspect loses consciousness in the back of a Roswell police car.
Point around. Come on.
Officer Reuter fears his prisoner is dying. The officer administers a dose of Narcan to counteract a possible overdose.
You okay, buddy? Hey, talk to me, Juan. Juan, talk to me.
They're just across the Alpharetta line, and backup arrives from both police departments. But the closest Roswell officer never arrives. Officer Brad Hill was the closest unit, just 1.3 miles away from his comrade trying to save a suspect's life. But Officer Hill's cruiser didn't move, even after this call came into police dispatch.
Hey, Alfred, it's Roswell. I have an officer who's at Old Milton and South Main Street with a prisoner in the back of his car who's agonal breathing. He had to stop. Can you start a unit?
The officer had called for an ambulance, but multiple police units from both Alpharetta and Roswell raced to the scene. In fact, Hill told investigators he saw not one, but 2 police cruisers from Roswell race by his location en route to help their fellow officer. Hill didn't move.
Load and go, let's go. Load and go.
Police backup turned out to be crucial. The ambulance took too long, and officers carried the lifeless suspect to a Roswell police SUV.
Keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on him.
Roswell's transporting to North Fulton with the prisoner in the back.
They got him to the hospital and saved his life.
He's been Narcan?
Afterward, Roswell officers wondered out loud, where was Hill?
He was the closest unit to Reuter, who was in need of help at that point. He possibly had somebody dying in the back of his car.
He failed to respond to the incident that several officers had noticed and were very angry about it. One of the worst things a police officer can do is not help out another police officer.
I was not willing to stick my neck out with already an IA going home that is never ending.
Officer Hill said he wasn't dispatched to the call outside his jurisdiction, but told commanders the real reason he didn't respond was that he was already under investigation for one of our other news stories.
He's not going to tell you the truth. He hasn't told you the truth since he met you.
Hill was on the scene where a 13-year-old special needs boy was kept cold to get him to tell the truth.
Oh, but he's 13, from what I can tell. I mean,
24.
You think it's 24?
Yeah.
Did you make any comments related to current internal affairs investigations and not wanting to get into any more trouble?
That's probably accurate, yes. I'm going to be found wrong with this. It's clear in the way that y'all asked the question. So, I mean, can we just get it over with?
A lieutenant only verbally counseled Hill, and later that same month, Chief Rusty Grant signed Hill's raise and promotion to Master Police Officer.
He'll get promoted to MPO, and I just found out about it. And it frustrated me because I knew about all this.
Just 2 days after we asked for Hill's GPS data under the Records Act, Chief Grant offered to let Hill resign. When he refused, the chief fired him. The Roswell and Alpharetta officers who did respond were given the life-saving medal for their heroic efforts, while Officer Hill was given a pink slip. 4 officers received only verbal counseling before our investigations. 3 have been fired, and the department's top sergeant was demoted only after we demanded videos of these incidents. The deputy chief suddenly retired, and Chief Grant resigned amid our investigations.
This sucks. This does absolutely suck. I will absolutely wholeheartedly agree, but this isn't unsurvivable. It just takes time. It's any agency. We just happen to be getting our asses handed to us.
Hey, it's Ramona. I'm not doing any field sobriety.
In each of these incidents, a group of concerned officers blew the whistle because they wanted to restore integrity and accountability.
Because I've got heat in this car.
He's freezing him out.
To the department's command staff.
That instance being investigated.
A public official saying we can't be in City Hall.
Your garbage reporting doesn't do anything.
No, just wait a second.
We're going to be arrested for trespassing for showing up to a police award ceremony?
If they don't want you in there.
This is City Hall. This is not a private building.
It's a private meeting.
And you've checked IDs, and all these people are not. How do you know?
Those people are family members.
Are they going to be taking pictures and posting them to social media?
They're saying it's their family.
Are they allowed to take pictures and post them to social media?
If they want to.
Right. So then it is an open meeting. The public is allowed to see it.
No, it's not.
The only people
Only
who aren't allowed,
invited people.
No, the only people who aren't allowed in are the press.
No.
Did you check invitations?
No. He's not press.
This is outrageous. You know it's outrageous.
No, it's not.
This is total. We have no injunctive relief here. If we go to sue, we can't have the meeting happen again.
It's not a meeting.
This is prior restraint. The only reason we're not being allowed in.
You don't have a right to go to a ceremony.
We don't have any right to go to a meeting where the public is present and city council members are present in City Hall.
It's a private invited meeting.
So every one of those people has an invitation.
Their spouses, yes.
They're all spouses. The 4-year-old's a spouse. Did you check his ID?
It's
This is
family.
outrageous. You know it's outrageous.
So what's
the only
public
reason
good
the only
going to a
reason
ceremony?
we're not allowed in there is because you don't like our reporting.
That has nothing to do. I like your reporting. I have no problem with
You've never had the press to a police award ceremony?
I have no idea.
So
This is the first time anybody's asked me.
has anyone else been asked to leave, or just
I
the
have no
press?
idea. I have absolutely no idea.
Listen, you know it's
You don't
outrageous.
have a right to be there.
We don't have a right.
No.
Do you realize the chutzpah of a public official saying we can't be in City Hall?
Your garbage reporting doesn't do anything about this.
Garbage reporting. Is there something we've gotten factually wrong?
I'm not saying there is or isn't.
You're
I don't
calling our
know.
reporting garbage reporting?
You trying to go into a private meeting? Yeah.
Sir, this is a
There's no
police
public
award
right
ceremony.
to go into a award ceremony.
Okay, so
If they don't want you in there, then that's fine.
you're the lawyer.
You're
I'm
free
not
to
a lawyer.
stand
I don't
out
have a JD. Are you telling me that how many council members before it's a public meeting?
It would be 4, but it's a ceremony, so it doesn't count. under
So
the
you
Open Records
purposely
Act.
kept it to 3? I mean, it's
I have no idea who's in there.
there's council members in there.
They
There's
just
the police
came up
department
and
in
said, "Are you
there.
entitled to be in there if they don't want you
You know,
in there?"
the
And
irony
answer's
here
no.
is we're here to record a whole bunch of officers getting the life-saving medal
I
for
agree.
saving a guy's life.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't be allowed to go in there. I'm just saying if they don't want you in there, you're not
Who's
entitled
they?
to be
Who
in
made
there.
the decision?
Whoever's in charge. I don't know
Who's
whose
in charge?
meeting it is.
Who's in charge?
I don't know.
So you don't know who told you we can't be
He
in
came
there?
and asked me if you're entitled to be in there if they don't want you in there. The answer's no. I have no problem with you myself being in there.
You just said called our reporting garbage reporting, counselor.
Yeah, if you're trying to say that you're entitled to be in there, then it is.
Okay. All right. So you act like this is some sort of private entity, like a private corporation. The taxpayers paid for this building.
You're exactly right.
The taxpayers paid the
That's
salaries of these
exactly right.
people in here, and we can't
And
observe
it's a
the
ceremony
process.
for them. It's a.
And you don't
it's a
want
meeting
to
of
publicize that a
staff
bunch of
and their
people are getting a life-saving award?
I'm all in favor of it. I don't have a problem with it.
News.